The war had started long before Earth knew about it. It began far away, between stars humans had never seen. One by one, alien civilizations fell. The Varnak swarm moved like a wave of death, eating planets, cities, even suns. 72 species tried to stop them. All failed. Some fought bravely. Others begged for peace. It didn't matter. The swarm listened to no one. It only destroyed. By the time the first warning reached Earth, it was already too late. A signal came from a dying world. Broken, weak, almost lost, in space noise. It was from the Zelari, a peaceful race that once watched over 12 planets. Now they had only one, and that too was burning. The message was simple. Do not fight. Just hide. We tried. We failed. They cannot be stopped. Most of the Galactic Council was gone. The last members had sent their own people into hiding, but Earth had never been part of the Council. Humans were still considered new, too emotional, too wild, too dangerous. The Varnak didn't care about Earth. Not yet. But the swarm was expanding and humans were next in its path. Some leaders on Earth said to prepare for surrender. Others said to hide, like the message warned. But Earth's people had a different idea. They chose to fight. They weren't the strongest. They didn't have the best ships. Their technology was behind. But they had something no other species had used in the war. They had madness. Human creativity didn't follow rules. Their weapons were strange. Their soldiers didn't give up. Their minds found new ways to win, even when losing was all that made sense. The first human ship to meet, the swarm, was called the Horizon. It was old, slow, underarmed. But it had one thing the swarm didn't expect: a human captain who didn't believe in retreat. When the swarm attacked a small moon colony in Sector 9, the Horizon flew straight into the fight. No support, no backup. Everyone thought they were going to die. But something strange happened. They survived. The swarm circled, expecting fear. Instead, the Horizon dropped mines made from scrap metal and magnetic storms. The swarm ships exploded, crashing. To each other, the humans flew through the chaos, firing old missiles, guiding them by hand. They lost the colony, but they destroyed 10 swarm ships, and that had never happened before. The galaxy watched in silence. Earth had done what no other world could do: not win, but hurt the swarm. The Varnak took notice. They turned their eyes to Earth. Still, the humans didn't stop. They sent more ships, more soldiers, not in giant fleets, but in small strike teams. Guerrilla fighters, hackers, engineers, people who used junk to build bombs and turned mining drills into weapons. They hit the swarm again and again and again. Each time they were outnumbered. Each time they bled. But they never backed down. People across the galaxy whispered in their homes. They're not supposed to win, they said. But the humans didn't care about what was supposed to happen. They just kept fighting. Some alien. Survivors who had given up now began to hope. They sent messages to Earth, offering help, asking for guidance. Earth didn't ask for leaders or power. It only said one thing: if you still want to live, stand with us. A broken alliance began to form. Scattered ships, lost soldiers, refugees who had nothing but hate for the swarm. And Earth took them in. The humans trained them, fed them, gave them purpose. Together, they prepared for the next step. The swarm noticed the change, so it responded the only way it knew. It sent a full fleet toward Earth, thousands of ships, billions of drones, a cloud of death. The galaxy held its breath. Would Earth run? Would they surrender? Would they break like the others? No. Earth stood tall. From every city, every station, every moon base, humans rose to fight. Civilians turned into soldiers, farmers into pilots. Children were sent underground. The rest held the line. The war wasn't won, but for the first time, it wasn't lost. And far beyond Earth, in the cold darkness, the Varnak swarm paused. They had crushed so many. But now they faced something different, something that didn't know how to kneel. Humanity wasn't the strongest, but it was the most dangerous, because it refused to die quietly. and that the galaxy would never forget. The Varnak swarm was coming. Every scanner, every satellite, every telescope pointed to one truth. Earth was next. Billions of people watched the sky. In the darkness of space, the swarm looked like a black wave, spreading fast, swallowing light. They had destroyed over 70 alien species. Earth had just started fighting. The world was not ready, not fully, but time had run out. Human leaders met in secret bunkers and floating stations. Some wanted to wait and defend. Others wanted to hide. But one plan, strange and dangerous, made everyone go quiet. Strike first. It sounded insane. Earth had only a few working fleets. Their weapons were old. Their technology couldn't match the Varnak. But that was the point. The enemy expected fear. Humans would give them fire. The plan was simple and deadly. Attack a Varnak outpost deep in their space. Not a large one, just enough to get their attention. Show the swarm what humanity was made of. A warning. We won't wait to be killed. We are coming for you. The mission was named Black Star. It was suicide. Every pilot knew it, but thousands volunteered. Not because they wanted glory, not because they wanted revenge, but because they knew someone had to light the match. Captain Mara Lennox was chosen to lead. She had fought on Tregus 4 and lost her whole team. She didn't smile anymore, but her eyes were sharp. Her voice was calm. When she spoke, even the most broken soldiers stood straighter. She stood before her crew, looked at each face and said, "One line, we die, or they burn, make your choice." No one left. The fleet launched at midnight. 14 ships, small, fast, loud. Some barely held together, painted black with dust and silence. They moved like ghosts between the stars. The target was Outpost 19, a Varnak supply hub guarded but not fully armed, just enough to be dangerous. Inside were thousands of fuel pods, weapons, and drone berthing tanks. If it exploded, the Varnak would feel it. The human fleet reached the outpost in silence. No signals, no warnings. Then they attacked. It was fast, brutal, beautiful. Old Earth torpedoes hit first, slower than swarm beams but smarter. They curved through space, dodging debris, striking weak points. The first blast tore open the Varnak shield wall. Sparks flew across the black. The swarm tried to react, but the humans were already inside. Fighters danced between metal towers, dropping firebombs and nanomines. Swarm drones rose from below, hissing like insects, but the humans were faster. They flew with rage, with memory, with purpose. Captain Lennox's ship crashed straight into a drone nest, engines burning. She jumped out before impact, shooting with her pulse rifle mid-air. She landed hard, bleeding, but stood up and kept firing. On the ground, soldiers in exosuits stormed the control rooms. The swarm thought in patterns, predictable, fast, cold. Humans thought in chaos. They ran where they shouldn't. They shot where they weren't supposed to. The swarm began to fall. But victory wasn't the goal. Destruction was. The main reactor was deep below the surface. It was large enough to power 10 systems. The humans reached it, planted charges, and left behind their names. They knew they wouldn't return. The countdown began. Lennox called her ship. Only 3 were left. Most of her team was gone. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "Light it." The sky turned white. The explosion was seen from 3 sectors away. Not just the outpost, but everything near it vanished in the fire. Swarm ships, drones, fuel, weapons. Gone. It was more than a battle. It was a message. Earth had struck first. The swarm howled in confusion. They had never been hit like this. Never expected such madness. They didn't understand it. That made it worse. Back on Earth, people watched the news in silence. Names of lost ships rolled across screens. Faces of fallen fighters filled the air. Mothers cried. Children hugged photos. But no one looked away, because for the first time they had made the swarm bleed. Other worlds noticed too. Hidden colonies, broken ships drifting in space, old allies too scared to fight. Now they saw Earth's courage. It was wild, it was foolish, and it was working. From the ashes of defeat, a strange hope was born. The humans weren't supposed to win, but they had just taken the first step, and the galaxy started to wonder, what if they could do the impossible? What if the Varnak swarm had finally found something they couldn't crush? What if the war was changing and Earth was leading the way? The Varnak swarm was angry. After the destruction of Outpost 19, they didn't wait. They sent a war fleet straight toward Earth. Not scouts, not drones. Real warships, large, silent, deadly. Thousands of them. They weren't coming to fight. They were coming to end the problem. Earth only had one chance to survive. A fleet was rushed to Sector 12, the last border before the Sol system. This was where the swarm would arrive. And this was where humanity would stand. It was the worst place to fight. The battlefield was empty space, no asteroids, no moons, no cover, just open blackness. Perfect for the swarm, terrible for humans. Every officer knew this. Every soldier knew it. This was the battle they were supposed to lose. But they came anyway. Admiral Cato Reeve was in command. He was old, slow-moving, and didn't speak much. People said he should have retired years ago. But his mind was sharp, and he didn't care what was supposed to happen. He stood on the command bridge of the Iron Rain, Earth's oldest battlecruiser, and looked. Out at the stars. The enemy would arrive in hours. They will not see what's coming, he said. The humans had a plan, a bad one, a crazy one. They were going to fake a retreat, make it look real, make it look like fear, pull the swarm deeper into the trap, let them believe Earth was broken. Then, when the enemy was right in the middle, close the jaws. The plan was called Operation Grave Sky. It started with screams. As soon as the swarm fleet jumped in, Earth's forces began to panic. Ships fired poorly. Some turned away. Others ran. The swarm moved forward quickly. Too quickly. They believed they were chasing a broken army, but they weren't. They were walking into a kill zone. Dozens of human ships had hidden small devices in the void. Not mines, not bombs, just signal amplifiers and reflectors. They turned the battlefield into a maze of false readings. The swarm couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't. Their targeting systems failed. Then the real attack began. From behind asteroid shadows, human stealth ships appeared. Tiny, silent, packed with old nukes and EMP bombs. They hit hard. The swarm screamed, turning to fight. But the trap was already closing. The human fleet stopped running. They turned around, and they attacked with everything. The battle turned into chaos. Explosions, fire, screams. Ships collided in burning silence. Fighters twisted through the swarm lines, cutting, slashing, diving. Earth soldiers fought like demons. It wasn't perfect. It was brutal, messy. Many died, but they didn't break. Captain Jane Cortez flew a fighter that had lost half its engines. Her screen blinked red, her wing torn, her fuel nearly gone. She saw a swarm destroyer heading straight for a medical ship. If it fired, hundreds would die. She turned her fighter. No backup, no orders, just choice. She pushed her ship forward and slammed it straight into the destroyer's engine bay. Both ships exploded. The medical ship survived. On the other side of the battle, Admiral Reeve stood quiet as the Iron Rain shook under fire. "Status?" he asked. "Shields at 20%. His officer replied. "We can't hold much longer." Reeve didn't blink. "Then we don't hold," he said. "We strike." He ordered the Iron Rain to ram the largest swarm vessel, an ancient hive ship with a core like a small star. His ship tore through the swarm line, guns firing non-stop. Then it slammed straight into the enemy core. The explosion lit up the battlefield, and the Varnak fell back. They weren't used to pain, not like this, not from a species so young, so chaotic. But pain was all Earth gave them. The battle ended not with a victory, but with silence. The swarm pulled back, not far, but enough. Earth had survived, again. The galaxy watched in shock. This wasn't possible. This battle was supposed to be the end. But somehow humans had turned a hopeless fight into a symbol, and now others were listening. Ships from old races, long silent, began to move. Messages came from broken colonies. Help was being offered, not to lead, not to rule, but to stand beside Earth. The tide wasn't turning yet, but something had changed. Humans didn't win that battle because they were stronger. They won because they didn't stop, because even in the face of death, they never backed down, and that fearlessness was spreading. Even the swarm, for the first time in history, hesitated. And in war, 1 second of hesitation can change everything. The galaxy was watching. After the battle in Sector 12, everything changed. Earth had survived again, not with better ships, not with stronger weapons, but with something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Willpower. And that will spread like fire. Small colonies that had gone silent for years now began to send messages. Old empires that had once hidden in fear now asked to speak with Earth's leaders. Lost species, thought extinct by the Varnak, began showing signs of life. Some sent scouts, others sent warnings. But all of them looked at Earth with something new in their eyes. Hope. The spark had been lit. Admiral Reeves' sacrifice, Captain Cortez's last flight, the Black Star mission. They became legends. Songs were written. Images were shared across systems. Kids in space stations drew Earth's flag. Even species that couldn't speak human languages tried to mimic the words, "Never back down." But Earth didn't have time to enjoy the moment. The swarm was regrouping. Bigger ships were seen moving through deep space. Varnak hives had started to grow faster. And this time, they were not just angry. They were scared. And fear made them dangerous. Back on Earth, in a base deep under the Arctic ice, the humans were building something new. A machine never tested. A weapon never used. It was called Project Emberstorm. It had no name in the public records. No pictures. Just a dark room guarded by silence and fear. The man in charge of the project was Dr. Eli Grant. He was not a soldier. He didn't wear a uniform. But he had created half the weapons Earth now used. People called him the architect of the impossible, and what he was building now could end everything, or everyone. It was a dark matter reactor, not for power, for war. Dark matter was banned across the galaxy. Too unstable, too dangerous. Whole systems had disappeared in testing. But Dr. Grant believed the swarm couldn't be stopped with old science. He believed they needed to rewrite the rules of war, and the only way to do that was to burn everything the swarm believed was safe. When Earth's leaders heard about the reactor, many said no. It was too risky, too deadly. One mistake could tear Earth in half. But others argued that if the swarm won, there would be no Earth left anyway. The decision was made. Project Emberstorm would go live, but it needed a delivery system. A ship fast enough to outrun the blast, strong enough to break through swarm lines, and light enough to disappear after the drop. That ship was Valkyrie 9. It was a prototype, never tested in real battle. The pilot chosen was Commander Asha Vale, young, smart, dangerous. She had flown in the Black Star mission and survived, barely. She had no family left, no ties, just one goal: to stop the swarm before they reached Earth again. When she saw the dark matter device for the first time, she didn't speak. She simply nodded and said, "How far do I need to go?" The mission was clear. Take the device to the swarm's forward hive. Drop it, get out, or don't, but make sure it detonates. The forward hive was massive, 10 kilometers long, floating. Near the edge of the Tyros belt, it had no shields. It didn't need them. Nothing had ever touched it before. Valkyrie 9 launched at midnight, cloaked in silence and shadows. It didn't carry weapons, just one. The last one. Commander Vale flew, alone. She moved through asteroid fields and dead zones, avoided patrols, outran Varnak drones. And finally, after 2 days of stealth flight, she saw it. The hive. It was bigger than she imagined. It pulsed with red lights and living walls. She could feel it watching, waiting. She pushed the ship faster. The alarms went off. The swarm had seen her, too late. She dropped the core and turned. The swarm chased. Energy beams lit the sky. Her ship shook. One wing was gone. Fire in the engines. She kept flying. The core sank into the hive, deep into its stomach. And then, light. But not normal light. This was dark light. Cold. Endless, beautiful. The hive vanished. The explosion didn't just destroy it, it erased it. No sound, no fire, just silence. The kind that makes stars shiver. The kind that makes monsters run. Commander Vale's ship didn't make it out, but her signal did. The galaxy heard her final message. For Earth. For all of us. Never back down. And then, nothing. But everything had changed. The swarm stopped. Paused. Shocked. They didn't understand dark matter. They didn't know how something so small could do so much damage. But one thing was clear. Earth had crossed a line. And now, others were ready to follow. The Varnak hive was gone. Erased. Not just destroyed. Wiped from space like it had never existed. Billions of swarm creatures lost in silence. No debris, no signal, no echo. Just gone. The galaxy felt it. Across hundreds of systems in the far corners of deep space, ancient empires and fallen colonies stopped and listened. Some gasped. Some trembled. Others stood tall. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Varnak had been wounded. Not hurt, not damaged, wounded. And it wasn't done by some ancient power. It wasn't the work of the old Galactic Council. It was Earth, the youngest world. The wild one. The species everyone once ignored, but not anymore. That spark Earth lit had now become a flame. And the galaxy, tired of running, tired of hiding, began to wake up. It started with the Zorathi. They had stayed neutral for centuries. Their ships were fast, their tech advanced. But they had always refused to fight. When the swarm came, they hid behind their shields and said, "It is not our war." But now one of their moons was missing, vanished, just like the Varnak hive. The swarm had struck back, a warning to the Zorathi. It didn't work. Instead, for the first time in known history, a Zorathi war signal was broadcast across open space. It was one word: enough. Next came the Drell Union, once strong, now scattered. Their planets had fallen years ago, but the Drell survivors had never stopped training, never stopped watching. And when Earth proved that the swarm could be burned, the Drell came out of the shadows. They didn't ask for help, they offered it. Old warships were pulled from frozen bunkers. Fleets came together in silence. The Drell sent their best to Earth and simply said, "Let's end this." Soon, others joined. The Beskar nomads, the Ashari collectives, the Orun Deepkin, even the silent Tev, who had not spoken to another race. In over 400 years, sent a message to Earth's high command. We are not made for war, but we can build, and we will build for you. All across the galaxy, small fires of rebellion lit up, and at the center of it all was Earth. Earth became the anchor, the rallying point. Its people didn't claim leadership, they didn't demand power. They only shared what they had: plans, weapons, courage, and something more powerful than any ship or gun: belief. The kind that spreads fast, the kind that makes cowards stand. In orbit around Jupiter, the new Allied War Council was formed. A circle of species once divided now sat at the same table. Not because they trusted each other, but because they all feared the same enemy, and because one wild species had shown them that fear could be turned into fire. Captain Layla Monroe, now promoted, after the Valkyrie mission, stood in front of the council. Her voice was calm, her words simple. They thought Earth would break, instead we bled, and kept moving. If we can do that, if we can make the swarm run, then imagine what we can do together. The room was quiet. Then the Drell war chief stood. We fight. The Zorathi nodded. We build. The Beskar raised their blades. We hunt. The galaxy wasn't just defending anymore. It was planning something bigger, a counterattack. For years, The swarm had pushed forward, planet by planet, system by system. Now, they would feel the pushback. It wouldn't be easy. The swarm was still strong, still massive, but it was no longer invincible. They had tasted pain, and worse, they had tasted fear. Far out beyond the stars in the dark corners of dead space, the Varnak Queen watched. Her hive throbbed with unease. She had never known fear before. Now it itched under her skin. She spoke to her children in whispers. Earth must be broken. But even she didn't believe those words anymore. Not fully, because something had changed in the balance of power. It was no longer swarm against weak prey. It was predator versus rising fire. And fire spreads. The galaxy, once quiet and divided, was now marching toward one goal: burn the swarm, end the war, and never let the darkness rise again. The swarm was bleeding, not from one world, not from one ship, but across the stars. It was slow at first, small attacks, strange losses, sudden strikes, but the signs were clear. The Varnak were no longer in control, and Earth was the reason. Allied forces were everywhere now. Zorathi stealth. Cruisers hunted swarm scouts. Drell warpacks destroyed hive eggs before they hatched. Beskar fighters tore through supply tunnels hidden in dead moons. Each day, the swarm lost more ground, more silence, more fear. But Earth knew one truth: a cornered beast is most dangerous. So the humans made a choice. It was time to end it. Not with more battles, not with another last stand, with a message. From orbit above Mars, Earth's top leaders, military and civilians, stood together. With them were voices from other worlds: Drell war chiefs, Zorathi engineers, Beskar hunters. Even the silent Tev connected their minds to the stream. One voice spoke for them all: General Kai Mercer, a soldier from Earth, decorated, wounded, feared. He had fought since the swarm first arrived. He had buried friends, watched cities fall, and now he would speak for all of them. The message was sent across every known frequency, through wormhole relays, through old forgotten satellites, through light and shadow, straight to the Varnak. It was translated into swarm code, the kind only their hive minds could feel. It was not long, just one message: you are no longer welcome in this galaxy. You will leave, or we will burn every single hive to ash. You have 7 rotations to decide. After that, there will be no more offers, only extinction. The galaxy held its breath. Would the swarm reply? Would they laugh? Would they strike? But for 7 full rotations, there was nothing, no attack, no signal, just silence. Then, on the 8th day, something strange happened. One of the oldest hives, the Black Maw, opened its gates. It had never opened before. It was said to be over 10,000 years old. Inside were creatures that had never been seen in light. And then, a small swarm envoy ship appeared, unarmed. It traveled straight toward the Allied fleet, parked near the shattered moon of Ralos III. No shields, no weapons, just a message inside. The humans let it dock. The envoy came out. It was smaller than expected. Thin, twitching. It spoke not with words, but with a wave of pheromones and light pulses. A translator. System read the meaning. Its message was simple: we do not leave, we do not kneel, we are the end, you will burn. The moment the message ended, the envoy exploded. A trap. A signal. All across the edge of known space, swarm hives lit up like fire. Thousands of ships rose from dark fields. Biocannons charged. The final swarm wave had begun. Earth's offer had been rejected. Now the galaxy had its answer. And Earth? Earth didn't flinch. In fact, they smiled. Because this was the moment they were waiting for. The bait had worked. Now the trap would close. Fleet Commander Layla Monroe stood on the bridge of Earth's newest battleship, the Revenant. Around her were ships from dozens of worlds. The Allied Armada, a force never seen before. They had waited for the swarm to make their choice. Now it was time to make their own. Status? She asked. All weapons charged. Shields strong. Reinforcements. Arriving from the Oran gates. Project Emberstorm cores loaded, her second-in-command replied. She nodded. Begin Operation Final Dawn. In deep space, engines roared. Allied ships jumped toward swarm space. No more messages, no more warnings. The galaxy had offered peace. The swarm chose fire. Now they would drown in it. The war should have ended long ago. Not with victory, but with silence. With the swarm standing tall over a broken galaxy. That's how everyone thought it would end. That's what history expected. But history was wrong. Because Earth fought differently. When the final battle began, the stars burned. Operation Final Dawn hit like thunder. From three sides, the Allied fleet stormed the swarm's oldest territories. Ships tore through enemy lines like fire through dry grass. Planets once used to breed hive soldiers were turned into glass. And still, it wasn't enough. The swarm was endless. Every ship destroyed, 10 more appeared. Every planet taken, another 3 were lost. And then, just as hope began to crack, Earth did something no one expected. They stopped fighting. Like everyone else, they changed the rules. In the middle of chaos, Earth launched Project Emberstorm. It wasn't a weapon, not a bomb, not a virus. It was something older, something dangerous, something Earth had never wanted to use. A black star, core, ripped from the heart of a dead neutron sun. It wasn't built to kill one hive. It was built to erase space itself. The scientists called it the Void Seed. And Earth had 3 of them. The first one was dropped into the heart of the Crimson Swarm cluster. The sky turned black. Time twisted. Then everything vanished. The second was used near the swarm's command hive on Arak 7. A place so heavily defended that no fleet could get close. The core didn't need to. It just sank into the planet, and the planet screamed before disappearing. Billions gone in seconds. The swarm was in shock. They had never lost hives this fast, never seen so much death, and, most of all, they had never felt fear like this. Real fear. Hive by hive. They began to fall back. For the first time in over 1,000 years, the swarm retreated. They didn't regroup. They ran. But Earth wasn't done. Not yet. There was still one last core, and it was aimed at the source. The queen hive, the oldest, the strongest, the one that gave birth to all others. Hidden deep inside a dying star system surrounded by black holes, the queen hive had never been touched. Not once, until now. The Revenant and the Drell Vengeance fleet led the charge. No one expected to survive, but no one turned back. Commander Monroe stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed forward. "This ends today," she said. The ships reached the core of the Queen's space. Every scanner went dark. The swarm came at them like a wave. Fangs, claws, fire. Hundreds of thousands of ships. But the Allies kept pushing, falling, firing, bleeding. Then the Revenant reached launch range. The final Void Seed was released. And then, everything stopped. There was no light, no sound, just black, a hole in space. And when the light returned, the Queen Hive was gone. So was the swarm. Across the galaxy, the other hives went still, empty, lifeless, dead. The war was over. Not with cheers, not with celebration, but with silence, heavy, deep, sacred. The galaxy was broken, yes, but it was alive and free. For the first time in memory, there was peace. Earth didn't ask for power. They didn't build an empire, they simply went home. The humans had been underestimated from the start. Too wild, too emotional, too soft. But in the end, those very things saved everyone. Hope, anger, loyalty, love, that was Earth's true weapon. And now, across the stars, when people speak of the war, they say one thing. They weren't supposed to win, but they did, because they never backed down, and the galaxy would never forget.